Most people spend their whole lives waiting for the perfect moment. But the truth is, the perfect moment never comes. Success doesn't wait, opportunities don't wait, and your dreams definitely won't wait. If you don't push yourself, life will push you down. So today, let's talk about how to stop waiting, start moving, and finally make it happen. When you think about growth, most people imagine progress as something exciting, something uplifting, something smooth. They imagine that moving forward feels good, that becoming better feels easy, that success is supposed to be enjoyable every single step of the way. But the reality is completely different. Growth is not born in comfort. Growth is born in discomfort. Every single breakthrough in your life, every single turning point, every single moment that shaped you into who you are today was birthed out of pain, resistance, uncertainty, or challenge. Discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is the doorway you have to walk through if you want to reach a new level. Too many people waste years of their lives running away from discomfort, trying to build a life where they never feel pain, never feel stretched, never feel tired, and never feel pressure. But here's the truth. The more you avoid discomfort, the more you avoid growth. The more you hide from it, the smaller your life becomes. Because comfort zones don't expand, they shrink. The more you stay in one, the tighter it gets, the more it suffocates your potential, and the more it traps you in mediocrity. When you step into discomfort, you're not stepping into punishment, you're stepping into preparation. Every time you go beyond what feels easy, you're telling your mind and your body that you are capable of more. Think about the person who goes to the gym for the first time. Lifting weights hurts, running on the treadmill burns, stretching feels unnatural, and the body screams to stop. But if that person listens to the pain and quits, they never experience transformation. The soreness you feel in the gym is not a sign that you're breaking down. It's a sign that you're building up. It's the same with life. The resistance you feel when you try something new, when you push yourself to speak up, when you risk rejection, when you pursue a dream that scares you, that resistance is proof that you're stretching into the person you were meant to become. Discomfort is the training ground of champions, the forge where character, resilience, and strength are created. The problem is, most people want growth without discomfort. They want the reward without the resistance. They want the victory without the battle. But it doesn't work that way. Diamonds are not made in calm environments. They are made under pressure. Muscles are not built in rest. They are built in strain. Leaders are not born in comfort. They are born in challenge. Everything that lasts, everything that matters, everything that inspires is forged in the fire of discomfort. That's why so many people never reach their potential, because the moment things start to get uncomfortable, they retreat, they quit, they run back to what feels safe. But safe doesn't make you strong. Safe doesn't build your future. Safe doesn't prepare you for the life you were designed to live. Think about your own life. Every time you stepped into discomfort, you grew. Maybe it was moving to a new city. Maybe it was taking on a responsibility you weren't sure you could handle. Maybe it was going through a hardship that nearly broke you. In those moments, you didn't feel comfortable, but you came out different. You came out wiser. You came out stronger. You came out with new abilities you didn't know you had before. That's the pattern of growth: discomfort, struggle, transformation. If you avoid the first two, you never get to experience the third. Growth requires you to walk willingly into the unknown, to say yes to situations that scare you, to embrace challenges instead of escaping them. And here's what makes discomfort so powerful. It forces you to discover who you really are. When life is easy, when everything is smooth, when there's no pressure, you can convince yourself that you're strong. You can tell yourself you're disciplined. You can pretend you're prepared. But when things get uncomfortable, when you're stretched to your limits, when you feel the weight of pressure pressing down on you, that's when the truth shows up. That's when you find out what you're made of. And if you're willing to endure that moment, if you're willing to sit with that discomfort instead of running from it, you unlock a new level of strength that you didn't know existed within you. That's how confidence is built. Not by avoiding discomfort, but by surviving it and realizing that it didn't break you. Discomfort is also the greatest teacher you will ever have. Think about it. You don't remember the lessons that came from easy times. You remember the lessons that came from the hard times. You remember the lessons that hurt, the lessons that forced you to change, the lessons that made you uncomfortable enough to never want to repeat the same mistake again. Discomfort teaches you discipline. It teaches you patience. It teaches you resilience. It doesn't just prepare you for success. It prepares you to keep success when you get there. Because if you can't handle discomfort, you won't be able to handle pressure, and pressure always comes with progress. Every successful person you admire, every story that inspires you, every achievement that amazes you is a story of discomfort. Behind every great accomplishment is a season of sacrifice, of long nights, of uncertainty, of failure, of pressure. But instead of running from that discomfort, they embraced it. They walked through it. They let it shape them. And that's why they're different. That's why they stand out. They understood that discomfort is not the enemy of success. It is the requirement for success. It's the toll you must pay to cross the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they have to feel like doing something in order to do it. They think motivation is what moves mountains. They think passion is what keeps them consistent. They think excitement is what drives them to stay the course. But the truth is, feelings are temporary and fragile. They rise and fall like the weather. They shift with moods, and they crumble under pressure. If you build your life around feelings, you will never build anything lasting. Discipline is what separates the people who dream from the people who achieve. Discipline is not about doing what's easy, it's about doing what's necessary. It's about showing up no matter how you feel, no matter what's happening around you, no matter how heavy the burden seems. Discipline is the muscle that carries you through when motivation runs out, and it always does. Feelings are seductive because they sound convincing in the moment. They whisper, "You're too tired today, just rest." They whisper, "You deserve a break, take it easy." They whisper, "You'll get to it tomorrow, don't stress right now." And at first, giving in to those whispers feels good. It feels comforting. It feels like you're taking care of yourself. But slowly, almost without noticing, you begin to build a habit of quitting. You begin to build a lifestyle around inconsistency. You begin to let feelings dictate your results. And feelings don't care about your future. Feelings care about the moment. They care about comfort. They care about relief. Discipline, on the other hand, cares about the long term. It cares about who you're becoming, not just how you feel right now. Think about the greatest athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders, or creators. Do you think they wake up every day feeling excited to do the hard work? Do you think they're always in the mood to train, to study, to sacrifice, to give up comfort for progress? Absolutely not. But they do it anyway because they understand a principle that most people never grasp. Feelings don't build legacies, discipline does. When you rely on feelings, your results are inconsistent, your effort is unpredictable, and your future is unstable. But when you rely on discipline, your results become inevitable. Every day you show up, every day you move forward, every day you do the work, whether you feel like it or not. That consistency compounds, and over time, it creates a level of success that feelings could never sustain. The problem with feelings is that they change depending on circumstances. If the weather is gloomy, you feel unmotivated. If someone criticizes you, you feel discouraged. If the process is harder than expected, you feel overwhelmed. And because feelings are unstable, people who rely on them are unstable too. But discipline doesn't care about circumstances. Discipline is the ability to stick to a decision long after the mood you made it in has disappeared. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it asks what needs to be done. And that mindset shift is the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Discipline is also a form of freedom. At first, it feels restrictive. It feels like a cage. It feels like you're forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. But over time, that consistency creates options. When you discipline yourself financially, you earn the freedom to live without debt and stress. When you discipline yourself in health, you earn the freedom to move without pain and live with energy. When you discipline yourself in work, you earn the freedom to choose your opportunities instead of begging for them. Discipline creates the future that feelings could never provide. Feelings are impulsive. They want pleasure now, even if it costs you later. Discipline delays pleasure now so you can enjoy it at a much higher level later. The irony is, people think discipline is painful, but the real pain comes from a lack of discipline. The pain of regret is always heavier than the pain of discipline. Skipping the workout feels good now, but regret follows later. Spending recklessly feels good now, but regret comes later. Procrastinating feels good now, but regret always catches up. Discipline might feel tough in the moment, but it prevents the crushing weight of regret that lasts a lifetime. That's why those who live by feelings often live frustrated, while those who live by discipline eventually live fulfilled. Another thing about discipline is that it builds identity. Every time you follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you're telling yourself, I am a person who does what I say I'll do. And identity is powerful because it shapes behavior. If you see yourself as disciplined, you will act disciplined. If you see yourself as unreliable, you will act unreliable. That's why keeping promises to yourself matters. Discipline is not just about the task. It's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that your word means something, that you can depend on you. That self-trust is what fuels confidence, and confidence is what fuels momentum. People often ask, how do I stay motivated? The answer is, you don't. You don't stay motivated, you stay disciplined. Motivation is a spark, discipline is the fire. Motivation is fragile, discipline is unshakable. Motivation is external, discipline is internal. Discipline doesn't rely on hype, it relies on habit. Once you build the habit of discipline, you stop negotiating with feelings. You stop debating whether or not you'll do something. You already decided. And that decision gives you clarity. It gives you power. It gives you peace of mind because you no longer live in the chaos of excuses. So when the alarm goes off in the morning and you don't feel like getting up, discipline says, get up anyway. When it's time to work and you don't feel inspired, discipline says, do it anyway. When it's time to practice and you don't feel energized, discipline says, push anyway. The people who win in life are not those who feel the best. They are those who act the best regardless of feelings. That's why discipline will always be greater than feelings, because discipline guarantees movement, while feelings guarantee nothing. One of the most underestimated truths about success is that it's not built on giant leaps, but on small, consistent steps. People often look at successful individuals and imagine they reached the top through some massive breakthrough, one big moment that changed everything, one stroke of luck that opened every door. But in reality, the greatest transformations are created by small wins accumulated over time. It's the daily actions, the simple choices, the little victories that seem insignificant in the moment, but compound into something extraordinary. When you understand the power of small wins, you stop waiting for the perfect moment, the big break, or the miracle opportunity, and you start focusing on winning today, right now, with what you have in front of you. The beauty of small wins is that they build momentum. When you complete something small, it shifts your energy, it changes your state of mind, it gives you confidence that you can move forward. It doesn't matter if it's making your bed in the morning, finishing a workout, writing one page of your book, or making a single phone call toward your business goal. Each one of those wins may seem tiny, but they carry a psychological weight that is much bigger than the task itself. Small wins remind you that you're capable of taking action, and that action creates motion, and that motion eventually becomes progress. Too many people wait for motivation before they move, but the truth is, motivation comes after movement, not before. Small wins are the fuel that keeps you moving when motivation is low. Think of it like compound interest in the financial world. If you invest a little bit consistently, over time that investment multiplies and grows into something massive. Success works the same way. Every small win is like a deposit into the bank of your future. At first, it doesn't look like much. The progress feels slow, almost invisible. But as the wins pile up, something powerful begins to happen. Your life shifts, your habits change, your results accelerate. Suddenly, the big breakthroughs that once seemed impossible begin to feel inevitable, because you built the foundation with small, steady victories. Small wins also rewire the brain. Every time you achieve something, no matter how small, your brain releases a little dose of dopamine, the chemical associated with pleasure and reward. That feeling reinforces the behavior, making it more likely that you'll repeat it. Over time, this creates a loop. Action leads to reward, reward leads to more action. What started as a tiny effort becomes a powerful habit, and habits shape destiny. This is why the person who starts by running just 5 minutes a day eventually becomes someone who runs marathons, or why the person who starts saving just a small amount of money eventually builds financial freedom. It's never about the size of the first step. It's about the consistency of the steps that follow. The challenge is that most people underestimate small wins because they don't look impressive at first. They think if it's not dramatic, it doesn't matter. They want the big transformation overnight. And when it doesn't happen, they quit. They don't realize that greatness is hidden inside those tiny, boring, consistent actions. Skipping the small wins feels harmless in the moment, but what you skip consistently is what defines your life. Missing one workout doesn't seem like much, but missing consistently turns into years of neglect. Writing one page doesn't feel like progress, but writing consistently becomes a book. Small wins stack up, whether you're building success or building failure. The question is never whether you're building, the question is what are you building with your daily actions? Another power of small wins is that they break down big, overwhelming goals into something you can actually handle. Looking at the entire mountain can paralyze you, but focusing on the next step gives you courage to keep climbing. When you celebrate small wins, you trick your brain into believing the goal is closer than it really is, which keeps you motivated to keep going. That's why celebrating small wins is not a waste of time. It's a strategy for survival. It's how you keep momentum alive during long seasons of effort, where the big results are not visible yet. Small wins also change identity. Every time you achieve something, no matter how small, you reinforce a new version of yourself. When you exercise, you become the type of person who takes care of their health. When you read every day, you become the type of person who values learning. When you follow through on commitments, you become the type of person who can be trusted. Over time, these small shifts in identity create massive shifts in your destiny. You don't just do the actions, you become the person who lives by them. And that's when lasting change happens. And what's remarkable is that small wins have a ripple effect. One small win in one area of your life spills into other areas. If you start your day with a win by waking up early and exercising, you carry that energy into your work, your relationships, your decisions. One small act of discipline creates a chain reaction that influences your entire day. This ripple effect multiplies your results without you even realizing it. That's why the discipline of small wins is so powerful, because it doesn't just change what you do, it changes how you see yourself and how you show up in every part of life. So when you feel stuck, when you feel overwhelmed, when the big picture feels too heavy to carry, go back to the basics. Focus on small wins. Do the little things you can control. Build momentum step by step. Don't despise the day of small beginnings, because every great ending is born there. Every empire started with a single brick. Every masterpiece began with a single stroke. Every success story was written one page at a time. The small wins create the big shifts, and the big shifts create the life you've been chasing. Excuses are the invisible chains that hold people back from their potential. They sound harmless because they are wrapped in logic, wrapped in justification, wrapped in reasons that feel legitimate in the moment. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I don't have the right connections. I'll start when the conditions are better. These are the phrases that people repeat to themselves over and over again, believing they are protecting themselves, when in reality, They are building walls around their own possibilities. Excuses are comfortable, but they are dangerous because they don't look like lies. They look like explanations, but every explanation that stops you from moving forward is nothing but a disguised excuse. And the more excuses you make, the further you drift from the life you say you want. Dreams are not built by words, they are built by action. You can talk about your goals all day long, you can write them down, you can imagine them, you can visualize them, but if your life is run by excuses, none of those things matter. Excuses kill more dreams than failure ever will, because excuses stop you from even trying. At least failure teaches you something. At least failure gives you feedback. At least failure strengthens your character. Excuses, on the other hand, keep you stuck in the same place year after year, convincing you that you're doing your best when deep down you know you're holding back. The truth is, no one has perfect conditions. No one has the ideal environment. No one begins with all the resources they need. Every person who has ever accomplished something great had to push through circumstances that weren't favorable. They had to fight against obstacles that seemed unfair. They had to move forward despite not feeling ready. The difference between those who build their dreams and those who bury them is not opportunity, it's ownership. People who build dreams take ownership of their lives, while people who don't build dreams take shelter in excuses. Ownership says, "It may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility." Excuses say, "It's out of my hands, so why bother trying?" Ownership creates action, excuses create paralysis. Excuses also create a false sense of comfort. They give you temporary relief from the guilt of not doing what you know you should do. When you say, "I'm too busy right now," it makes you feel better for skipping the work. When you say, "I'll start when I have more money," it makes you feel better for not starting at all. But the danger is that this comfort is short-lived. It feels good in the moment, but over time, it becomes regret. Regret is the heavy price you pay for letting excuses run your life. And regret is far more painful than the temporary discomfort of taking responsibility. The scary thing about excuses is how creative they are. They adapt to every stage of life. When you're young, the excuse is, "I'm too inexperienced." When you're older, the excuse becomes, "I'm too late." When you have no resources, the excuse is, "I can't afford it." When you gain resources, the excuse shifts to, "I can't risk losing what I already have." Excuses will always find a way to sound reasonable if you let them. That's why it's not enough to fight excuses once. You must develop the habit of rejecting them daily. Because if you don't, they will always have the final word. Excuses are also contagious. The more you make them, the more others around you adopt them. You start surrounding yourself with people who validate your excuses instead of challenging them. You start creating an environment where mediocrity feels normal, where giving up feels justified, where stagnation feels acceptable. That environment then reinforces the excuses, and the cycle repeats itself. But when you eliminate excuses, when you choose responsibility, you shift your environment too. You attract people who are doers, not talkers. You attract opportunities that reward action, not hesitation. You create a culture in your own life that refuses to settle for less than what's possible. Every dream requires sacrifice. Every goal requires discomfort. Every vision requires consistency. Excuses rob you of all three. They make you believe that you can have the dream without the sacrifice, the goal without the discomfort, the vision without the consistency. But there is no shortcut around this reality. If you want the reward, you have to pay the price. Excuses are nothing more than an attempt to avoid paying the price. And the truth is, the longer you delay payment, the more expensive it becomes. 1 year of excuses can cost you 5 years of progress. 5 years of excuses can cost you a lifetime of potential. The cost of excuses is always higher than the effort required to take action. The most dangerous thing about excuses is that they build identity. If you repeat them long enough, you start believing them. You stop saying, "I didn't do it because I was tired," and you start saying, "I'm just not disciplined." You stop saying, "I can't do it because I don't know how," and you start saying, "I'm just not good at that." You stop saying, "I didn't have the right opportunity," and you start saying, "I guess I'm just not meant for more." Over time, your excuses stop being reasons and start becoming who you think you are. And when excuses define your identity, they destroy your future. The only way to kill excuses is to replace them with action. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting for better conditions. Stop waiting for someone else to make it easier for you. There is no perfect time. There are no perfect conditions, and no one else is coming to do it for you. You have to decide that your dream is more important than your excuses. You have to decide that your future is worth more than your comfort. You have to decide that responsibility is the only path forward. Every time you act in spite of an excuse, you weaken its power. Every time you reject the temptation to justify an action, you strengthen your ability to follow through. And every time you choose responsibility over excuses, you get one step closer to turning your dream into reality. Endurance is not just about physical strength. It's about mental clarity. It's about having something inside of you so powerful that no matter how tired you feel, no matter how heavy the burden becomes, no matter how long the journey seems, you find a way to keep moving. That power is vision. Vision is what allows a person to push when their body is exhausted, to persevere when their mind says quit, to endure when circumstances scream that it's over. Vision is the picture of the future that pulls you through the pain of the present. Without vision, people give up easily. Without vision, setbacks look permanent. Without vision, challenges look bigger than they really are. But when your vision is clear, the same obstacles that make others quit become the very fuel that drives you to keep going. Vision gives pain a purpose. Struggle without vision feels meaningless, but struggle with vision becomes training. Every sacrifice becomes connected to something greater. Every late night feels worth it. Every early morning becomes an investment. When you know exactly what you're chasing, the pain doesn't go away, but it transforms. It becomes tolerable because you understand it is serving your future. Think about an athlete preparing for a championship. The long practices, the aching muscles, the strict diet. They don't enjoy the pain, but they endure it because their vision of winning is greater than their desire for comfort. The same is true for your life. If you want to endure, you must have a vision bigger than the discomfort in front of you. Vision also stretches your perspective. When you're locked in the present moment, every challenge feels massive, every delay feels unbearable, every failure feels final. But when you step back and see your vision, you realize that the current struggle is just one small part of a bigger story. What feels heavy right now becomes lighter when you realize it is temporary compared to the future you are working toward. Vision acts like a compass. It doesn't remove the storms, but it ensures you stay on course despite them. Without vision, you get lost, you wander aimlessly, and you waste energy on things that don't matter. With vision, you conserve your strength, you endure longer, and you direct your energy toward what truly counts. Another thing about vision is that it gives meaning to sacrifice. Every goal requires giving something up: time, energy, comfort, distractions, sometimes even relationships. Without vision, sacrifice feels like loss. It feels like life is taking something away from you. But with vision, sacrifice feels like investment. You don't see what you're losing, you see what you're gaining. You realize that every sacrifice is simply an exchange. You're trading temporary comfort for permanent achievement, trading immediate pleasure for long-term fulfillment. And when you see it that way, endurance becomes easier because you know the reward will outweigh the cost. Vision also fuels passion. Passion by itself is not enough, because passion fades when the work becomes repetitive, when results are slow, when life throws resistance in your path. But vision reignites passion even when circumstances are tough. It keeps the fire alive. It keeps the excitement burning. It reminds you why you started in the first place. Passion without vision is like a fire without oxygen. It burns out quickly. But passion connected to vision becomes unstoppable because every setback is just another reminder of what you are working for. Vision turns temporary passion into lasting endurance. The reason many people quit is because they lose sight of the vision. They start strong, but as soon as the journey gets long, they forget why they began. They get distracted by problems, discouraged by delays, and derailed by setbacks. Instead of focusing on where they are going, they obsess over where they are right now, and they let the weight of the moment convince them that the destination is too far. But the ones who endure are not the ones who never face problems. They are the ones who never lose sight of the vision. They look beyond the pain, beyond the obstacles, beyond the temporary failures, and they keep their eyes locked on the bigger picture. Vision also creates resilience. When you have a vision, failure doesn't destroy you, it teaches you. When you have a vision, rejection doesn't stop you, it redirects you. When you have a vision, delay doesn't discourage you, it develops you. Vision turns every negative into fuel for endurance because it gives you perspective that everything you face is part of the process. Without vision, failure feels like the end. With vision, failure feels like a stepping stone. Without vision, rejection feels personal. With vision, rejection feels directional. Vision transforms the way you interpret every experience, and that interpretation is what determines whether you quit or endure. Endurance also requires hope, and vision is the greatest source of hope. Hope is not blind optimism. It is a firm belief in a future that is worth fighting for. When you carry vision, you wake up with purpose even when life is messy. You work with consistency even when progress is slow. You sacrifice with joy even when it's uncomfortable. Vision creates hope, and hope sustains endurance. That's why people who can see beyond their current struggle always last longer than those who cannot. Their vision pulls them forward when everything else tries to hold them back. And vision does one more thing. It inspires others to endure with you. When people see someone with a clear vision, they are drawn to it. They want to be part of it. They want to contribute to it. They want to endure alongside you. Vision creates leadership, and leadership multiplies endurance because now you're not just carrying your own dream. You're carrying the dreams of those who believe in you as well. That added responsibility strengthens your resolve and pushes you to keep moving when you would otherwise stop. Vision is not only fuel for your endurance, it's fuel for everyone connected to you. Fear has the power to paralyze you if you let it. It whispers doubts in your mind. It magnifies every risk. It paints vivid pictures of failure long before you even take a single step. Fear convinces people to wait, to hesitate, to overthink, to prepare endlessly without ever starting. And while they wait, opportunities slip by, doors close, time passes, and potential fades. The mistake most people make is trying to think their way out of fear, hoping that if they just analyze enough, study enough, plan enough, the fear will vanish. But fear doesn't vanish through thought. It only vanishes through action. Action is the antidote to fear. The moment you move, the grip of fear begins to weaken. The second you take a step, you prove to yourself that fear is not the master, you are. The reason action destroys fear is because fear thrives in imagination. It grows strongest in the space between thought and movement. You imagine the worst-case scenario. You imagine embarrassment. You imagine failure. You imagine pain. And all of that imagination multiplies the fear until it feels overwhelming. But when you act, reality interrupts imagination. You discover that the thing you feared is never as bad as you pictured. You realize that the rejection didn't kill you. The risk didn't destroy you. The challenge wasn't as impossible as it looked. Action brings truth into the equation, and truth always shrinks fear. Fear feeds on uncertainty, and action gives you clarity. Think about the first time you did something that scared you, speaking in public, asking for an opportunity, starting something new. Before you acted, the fear was loud, the nerves were heavy, the doubts were overwhelming. But the moment you opened your mouth, the moment you took that step, the fear began to fade. It didn't disappear completely, but it lost its power because you were moving in spite of it. That's the secret. You don't wait until fear is gone to act. You act while fear is present, and in doing so, you weaken it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear. Fear tricks you into believing that waiting will make things easier, but the opposite is true. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. Delay feeds doubt. Hesitation magnifies anxiety. Procrastination gives fear room to grow. But the moment you take action, even a small one, You interrupt that cycle. You give yourself proof that movement is possible, that progress is possible, that fear doesn't have the final say. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. Confidence doesn't come first, it comes after action. You earn confidence by doing the very thing you were afraid to do. Another reason action is so powerful against fear is because it shifts your focus. Fear makes you self-centered, always asking, what if I fail? What if I look stupid? What if I get rejected? Action forces you to focus on the task, on the process, on the next step, instead of the endless loop of what-ifs. Once you start moving, you stop obsessing over the outcome and start engaging with the work itself. That shift in focus breaks the cycle of fear because it starves the thoughts that kept you paralyzed. When you act, your energy goes into doing, not worrying. Action also teaches you that fear is often an illusion. So many times people look back on things they were once terrified of and laugh at how much power they gave to something so small. But you only gain that perspective through experience, and you only gain experience through action. Fear creates monsters in your head that don't exist in reality, and the only way to expose them is to face them. The moment you act, you shine light on the shadows, and you realize most of the monsters were made up. This realization doesn't happen by thinking about it. It only happens when you move forward. Every great success story is filled with moments of fear. No one escapes it. The difference is that successful people act anyway. They feel the same fear you do, but they don't let it stop them. They've learned the principle that fear loses its power in the presence of movement. They don't wait for courage to come before they move. They create courage by moving. And once you understand that, you stop wasting time trying to feel ready, because readiness is a myth. The truth is, you'll never feel completely ready. You'll always feel some level of fear. The only way forward is to act in the middle of that fear and let action build the readiness you're waiting for. Action doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean ignoring preparation or rushing blindly. It means refusing to let fear be the deciding factor in your life. It means taking the next step you can take, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's uncomfortable. Progress is made in motion, not in hesitation. A small step forward will always create more clarity than hours of overthinking. And once you start moving, each step becomes easier, because the act of doing creates new possibilities that fear could never show you. And perhaps the most important truth is this: fear is temporary, but regret lasts forever. The fear you feel before acting fades once you move, but the regret of never acting stays with you for a lifetime. You will always wonder, what could I have done? Who could I have become? What life could I have built if I had just acted instead of excusing? That weight is heavier than fear could ever be. Action frees you from that burden because it gives you answers instead of questions. It gives you experiences instead of regrets. It gives you growth instead of stagnation. Action is not just the antidote to fear, it is the pathway to freedom. So many people start strong but fade along the way. They have big dreams, bold declarations, and fiery enthusiasm at the beginning. But as soon as the road gets longer than they expected, as soon as challenges rise higher than they imagined, they stop pushing. They convince themselves that maybe it wasn't meant to be, maybe the timing is wrong, maybe life is telling them to quit. But the truth is, most people never fail because they lack potential. They fail because they stop too soon. They stop pushing when the breakthrough was right around the corner. They stop digging when the gold was inches away. The difference between those who achieve their vision and those who live with regret is the willingness to push until it happens. Not halfway, not until it's convenient, not until you get tired, but until the mission is accomplished. Pushing until it happens means refusing to settle for halfway victories. It means not being satisfied with potential energy that never turns into results. Many people confuse activity with accomplishment. They stay busy, they start projects, they talk about goals, but they don't push through to completion. They walk away just before the finish line, leaving their dreams unfinished. But pushing until it happens is about endurance, about going the extra mile when your body, your mind, and even the world around you tells you to stop. It's about demanding results from yourself instead of excuses. It's about making a vow that you will not stop until the vision becomes reality. The truth is, life does not hand over success easily. It requires persistence that outlasts setbacks. When doors close, when people doubt you, when resources run dry, the easy choice is to quit. But pushing until it happens requires you to keep moving when everything in you wants to slow down. It requires an inner fire that says, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care who tells me it can't be done. I'm going to keep going until it's done. That determination is what separates dreamers from achievers. Dreamers stop at obstacles. Achievers push through them. Dreamers imagine what's possible. Achievers make it happen through relentless pursuit. The process of pushing until it happens builds a strength inside of you that nothing else can create. You begin to develop resilience, the ability to withstand pressure without breaking. You learn that pain, exhaustion, and setbacks are not signs to stop, but signals that you are stretching into a new level. Every time you push when it hurts, you expand your capacity. Every time you keep moving when you're tired, you build endurance. Every time you refuse to quit, you train yourself to be unstoppable. That kind of mindset becomes your greatest weapon, because once you've proven to yourself that you can outlast difficulty, there is nothing that life can throw at you that will cause you to quit. Pushing until it happens also exposes your true hunger. Many people say they want success, but only those who are willing to push for it prove how badly they actually want it. Talk is cheap. Desire without action is nothing but fantasy. If you truly want it, you will not give up. You will not look for shortcuts. You will not lower your standards. You will push until you see it. Hunger is revealed in effort, and effort is revealed in persistence. If you stop when it gets hard, it shows that comfort meant more to you than the vision. But if you push until it happens, it proves that nothing meant more to you than turning your dream into reality. This principle applies to every area of life: business, health, relationships, personal growth. Anyone can start a new routine, but only those who push through the days they don't feel like it see real transformation. Anyone can launch a business, but only those who keep pushing when sales are slow. When setbacks happen, when the pressure mounts, ever build something great. Anyone can set a goal, but only those who push through the discouragement, through the silence, through the nights of doubt, ever stand on the other side of victory. Life doesn't reward those who almost finish. It rewards those who refuse to stop until they finish. And the truth is, the push is not just about the result. It's about who you become in the process. When you push yourself beyond your limits, you discover strengths you didn't know you had. You unlock resilience, discipline, creativity, and determination that would have stayed hidden if you quit early. The struggle itself shapes you into a stronger version of yourself, one who is not easily shaken, one who knows how to endure, one who knows the power of persistence. By the time you reach your goal, you are no longer the same person who started. You are sharper, stronger, and prepared for even greater challenges ahead. Pushing until it happens demands a mindset of absolute commitment. You cannot leave room for retreat. You cannot keep quitting as an option in your back pocket. You have to decide that no matter how long it takes, no matter how many failures you face, no matter how much it hurts, you will stay in the fight until you win. It is this kind of stubborn, relentless, uncompromising pursuit that transforms visions into victories. The world bends to the will of those who refuse to stop. Life eventually yields to those who refuse to quit. If you want your dream to stop being just an idea and start being your reality, there is only one strategy: push until it happens.